Aliens wasn't just a sci-fi horror sequel. It was a battlefield where cast and crew fought real-life nightmares to redefine action cinema forever. While audiences were terrified by xenomorphs on screen, behind the cameras, chaos erupted daily. A rebellious British crew nearly mutinied against their American director. Sigourney Weaver collapsed from exhaustion after 14-hour days in a 70-pound exoskeleton. Studio executives threatened to pull the plug when the budget spiraled out of control. And a massive hydraulic alien queen puppet nearly crushed crew members when it malfunctioned during the climactic fight scene. Today, we're diving into 20 weird facts about aliens that will change how you see this groundbreaking film. And stick around for our bonus fact, the shocking truth about what James Cameron did after principal photography that almost got the entire movie scrapped. So lock and load, because in the world of aliens, the real horror wasn't in space. It was on set. Fact number 1. When James Cameron arrived in England to direct Aliens, he didn't find a welcoming crew. He found a rebellion. The British film crew openly despised the 31-year-old director, whose only major credit was The Terminator. They weren't just skeptical, they were hostile. Tensions erupted when Cameron fired the original director of photography, Dick Bush, after just 2 weeks of shooting. The crew, loyal to Bush, began wearing T-shirts reading, "Will Rogers never met Jim Cameron." The Americans saying, "I never met a man I didn't like," was their way of declaring war on their director. Cameron recalled, "I'd say, 'We need this,' and they'd just look at me like, 'Oh, the American cowboy wants to do it his way.'" The animosity grew so severe that Cameron's wife at the time, producer Gail Ann Hurd, had to physically position herself between Cameron and crew members during heated confrontations. The director later admitted, "I learned to direct with a megaphone in England." Fact number 2. Sigourney Weaver wasn't supposed to be Ellen Ripley again. Not because she didn't want the role, but because 20th Century Fox refused to pay her what she deserved. Despite carrying the original Alien to success, studio executives balked at Weaver's salary demands for the sequel. They weren't just hesitant, they were dismissive. Fox president Larry Gordon infamously declared, "Why do we need Sigourney Weaver? Nobody went to see Alien because of Sigourney Weaver. They went because of the monster." Cameron stood firm, insisting there is no movie without Sigourney. Production was delayed for months during the standoff. Weaver eventually secured a $1 million payday, a fraction of what male action stars earned at the time, but 30 times her $33,000 salary for the original film. Her performance didn't just prove Fox wrong, it shattered Hollywood conventions, earning her an Academy Award nomination, unprecedented for a science fiction action film. As Weaver later remarked, "I wasn't fighting for money. I was fighting for respect." Fact number 3. The Alien Queen wasn't CGI. It wasn't even a single puppet. It was a nightmarish fusion of technologies that required 16 puppeteers working in perfect synchronization. Standing 14 feet tall, the Queen was built by Stan Winston's team using every practical effect technique available. Her head alone contained 900 moving parts. Her body? A terrifying combination of hydraulics, cables, rods, and human operators crammed inside her torso. The tail extended 18 feet and required 4 dedicated puppeteers. What audiences didn't see was the grueling reality behind each shot. Temperatures inside the Queen's body reached 120 degrees, causing puppeteers to suffer heat exhaustion. Radio communication systems frequently malfunctioned, leaving operators working blind. During the climactic battle with Ripley, the Queen's hydraulic system catastrophically failed, sending pressurized fluid exploding across the set. 2 technicians suffered minor injuries, and filming halted for 3 days. As Winston later commented, "We weren't just building a monster, we were creating a character that had to act." Fact number 4. The pulse rifles didn't just look real, they were real. Cameron, obsessed with authenticity, built the Colonial Marines' weapons using actual Thompson submachine guns and Remington shotguns as their base, then modified them with futuristic shells. This dedication to realism backfired spectacularly during filming at Pinewood Studios. The weapons fired blanks, but they were still functional firearms. British weapons laws weren't just strict, they were uncompromising. When authorities discovered live-firing weapons on set without proper permits, they didn't issue warnings. They raided the production, Armed police stormed the soundstage, confiscating every weapon and shutting down production for 3 days. Armorer Simon Atherton had to work around the clock to create non-firing replicas that could still eject shell casings and create muzzle flashes through practical effects. The incident cost the production over $100,000 and nearly got several crew members arrested. As Bill Paxton later quipped, the real aliens on that set were the British police. Fact number 5. Carrie Henn, who played Newt, had never acted before Aliens. She wasn't discovered at an audition in Los Angeles or New York. She was found in a school cafeteria in Lakenheath, England. Casting director Mary Selway visited the American military base where Henn's father was stationed, searching for a child with authentic trauma in her eyes. Henn wasn't just right for the part. She was Newt. What audiences didn't know was that Henn's haunting performance came at a cost. To capture Newt's terror, Cameron employed techniques that would be prohibited today. For scenes requiring her to appear frightened, crew members would suddenly clang metal objects off camera, triggering genuine startle responses. During the medical lab sequence, Henn was told the alien would actually break through the ceiling above her. When it crashed through, her scream wasn't acting. It was real fear. Despite her acclaimed performance, Henn never acted again. She became an elementary school teacher, occasionally telling her students, "I've fought aliens, so don't think you can scare me." Fact number 6. The famous loading dock battle almost didn't happen, not because of technical limitations, but because Fox executives thought it was unnecessary. When Cameron's original script came in at 158 pages, studio head Alan Ladd Jr. demanded cuts. The power loader confrontation wasn't just on the chopping block, it was first in line. Fox executives called it excessive, technically impossible, and an expensive gimmick. Cameron didn't just disagree. He exploded, threatening to walk off the production entirely. His exact words, "You want to cut the scene that people will be talking about 30 years from now? Go ahead, but you'll be doing it with another director." The standoff lasted weeks, with Cameron refusing to begin pre-production until the scene was guaranteed. Finally, producer Gail Ann Hurd secured the budget by cutting other sequences and promising the loader could be built under budget. The gamble paid off spectacularly. The power loader became one of cinema's most iconic mechanical creations, inspiring everything from Avatar's AMP suits to real-world industrial exoskeletons. As Cameron later noted, sometimes the most important battle is the one you fight before cameras ever roll. Fact number 7. Michael Biehn wasn't supposed to play Hicks. The role originally belonged to James Remar, star of The Warriors and 48 Teachers. Remar didn't just start filming, he completed 2 weeks of shooting before abruptly disappearing from the production. For decades, the official story was creative differences. The truth? Much darker. Remar was struggling with cocaine addiction during production. The breaking point came when he was arrested for drug possession in England. Fox executives weren't just concerned, they were terrified of a public relations disaster. Biehn, who had worked with Cameron on The Terminator, received an emergency call on a Friday. By Monday, he was on set in full Colonial Marine gear. Every shot featuring Remar had to be meticulously refilmed, costing the production hundreds of thousands of dollars. If you look carefully during the scene where the Marines first enter the processing station, you can spot Remar's silhouette from behind in several shots that proved too expensive to reshoot. As Biehn later reflected, "I got the job of a lifetime because someone else hit rock bottom." Fact number 8. The alien nest wasn't built by set designers. It was created by mental patients. When production designer Peter Lamont needed to construct the massive hive containing hundreds of complex biomechanical shapes, conventional methods proved too time-consuming and expensive. His solution wasn't just unconventional, it was revolutionary. Lamont partnered with a London psychiatric hospital's occupational therapy department. Patients with schizophrenia and other disorders were employed to create the intricate xenomorph secretions, cocoons, and wall structures. The patients weren't just workers, they became invested collaborators, with several developing elaborate theories about alien biology that Cameron incorporated into the final design. One patient's concept of how the aliens transported their victims became the basis for the resin wall anchoring system seen in the film. Hospital staff reported significant therapeutic benefits for participating patients, many of whom experienced decreased symptoms during the project. As Lamont noted in a 1987 interview, the most otherworldly designs came from minds that experience reality differently than our own. Fact number 9. Sigourney Weaver didn't just act with flamethrowers. She demanded to use the real thing. When safety coordinators suggested using non-functional props with added visual effects for close-ups, Weaver wasn't just resistant. She was adamant. Her exact response: "Ripley wouldn't use a fake flamethrower. Neither will I." The M240 flamethrowers used on set weren't Hollywood props. They were military-grade weapons capable of projecting burning fuel 50 meters. Insurance underwriters initially refused coverage for scenes where Weaver operated the weapon, requiring Cameron to personally sign liability waivers. During the nest sequence, a malfunction caused flames to blow back toward Weaver. Rather than breaking character, she maintained her position, suffering minor burns to her face and hands. Footage of the incident remains in the film. The experience transformed Weaver's approach to the character. After handling that kind of power, everything about how Ripley carries herself changed, she recalled. There's knowing your character is tough, and then there's feeling napalm heat on your skin. Fact number 10. We're halfway through our countdown of the most shocking behind-the-scenes facts about aliens. Go ahead and like and subscribe because things are about to get even wilder, just like Bill Paxton's performance as Hudson, which wasn't acting. It was a nervous breakdown captured on film. Paxton's iconic "Game Over, Man" wasn't in the script. It wasn't planned. It was a genuine outburst from an actor pushed to his psychological limits.
Game over, man. It's game over. What the fuck are we gonna do now?
Cameron deliberately isolated Paxton from the rest of the cast during filming, fostering real resentment. The director frequently changed Hudson's dialogue minutes before cameras rolled, preventing Paxton from properly preparing. The actor wasn't just frustrated, he was unraveling. During the operations room scene where Hudson discovers the complex's cooling system could trigger a thermonuclear explosion, Cameron secretly instructed other actors to interrupt and talk over Paxton repeatedly. The visible anxiety and mounting hysteria weren't performed emotions. They were real. Paxton later admitted, "Jim pushed me until I broke, then kept the cameras rolling." The approach was brutal but effective. Hudson's psychological disintegration remains one of cinema's most authentic portrayals of combat stress. As Cameron explained, sometimes to capture fear, you have to create it. Fact number 11. The pulse rifle sound wasn't created by sound engineers. It was discovered by accident. Sound designer Gary Rydstrom spent weeks attempting to create the distinctive report of the Colonial Marines' signature weapon. Conventional firearms sounded too familiar. Digitally altered explosions lacked impact. The sound needed wasn't just unique. It had to be otherworldly, yet believable. The breakthrough came when a crew member dropped a Honda motorcycle onto a concrete floor during an unrelated recording session. The resulting sound, a mechanical screech followed by a percussive crack, immediately caught Rydstrom's attention. Further experiments led to the final effect, the sound of a 9mm handgun firing inside an elevator shaft combined with the mechanical action of a cloth tape measure being rapidly rewound. What audiences hear isn't a single sound effect. It's 5 distinct audio elements layered into one distinctive audio signature. This unplanned discovery transformed how science fiction weapons would sound for decades to come. As Rydstrom later observed, the most convincing future sounds often come from the most mundane present-day sources. Fact number 12. The Marines weren't trained by actors. They were molded by actual military personnel. Cameron hired Al Matthews, a decorated Vietnam veteran who served with the 1st Marine Division, not just as the actor playing Sergeant Apone, but as the production's military technical advisor. Matthews's approach wasn't gentle. It was brutally authentic. The cast endured 2 weeks of genuine military training before filming began. They weren't just learning to hold weapons. They were subjected to 5 a.m. wake-up calls, grueling physical training, and constant psychological pressure. Michael Biehn, Bill Paxton, and the other Marine actors were required to make their own beds to military specifications each morning. Failed inspections resulted in group punishment, typically additional physical training. They ate, slept, and trained as a unit, developing the natural shorthand and camaraderie visible on screen. Matthews didn't just advise, he commanded. During takes, he would deliberately sabotage equipment or create unexpected obstacles, forcing actors to problem-solve under pressure. As Jeanette Goldstein Vasquez recalled, "We weren't playing Colonial Marines. For those weeks, we were Colonial Marines." Fact number 13. The chestburster scene with the colonists wasn't just shocking on screen. It traumatized the crew. Unlike the original Alien, where cast reactions to the chestburster were genuine because they weren't told what would happen, the Alien's crew knew what to expect. Or thought they did. Cameron wanted to evolve the chestburster, making it more aggressive and mobile. Effects supervisor Stan Winston created puppets capable of autonomous movement, powered by compressed air systems hidden beneath the set floor. What the crew didn't know was exactly how many chestbursters would appear, or how violently. When filming the colonist autopsy scene, Cameron secretly installed 4 additional chestbursters beyond the scripted one. During the take, all 5 erupted simultaneously, spraying pressurized blood across the set and performers. The screams of the medical technicians weren't acting. They were genuine terror. Camera operator Adrian Biddle was so startled he fell backward, damaging an expensive lens. Sound recordist Roy Charman reportedly vomited after the scene wrapped. As Winston later commented, "Sometimes horror needs to be as real for the filmmakers as it is for the audience." Fact number 14. The famous basketball shot wasn't a special effect. It wasn't camera trickery. It was Sigourney Weaver making an impossible shot for real. In the special edition's opening scene, Ripley casually sinks a backwards over-the-shoulder basketball shot. Most assumed it used clever editing or multiple takes. The truth? More impressive. Weaver made the shot legitimately on her first attempt. The crew's genuine explosion of amazement is real. They had expected to spend hours filming multiple takes. Cameron was so stunned, he initially thought his effects team had somehow rigged the ball. What makes the feat even more remarkable, Weaver was wearing heavy arm restraints for the scene, limiting her mobility. She had practiced the shot between takes throughout production, never telling Cameron she was preparing for it. When asked about the moment years later, Weaver downplayed her achievement. "I'm actually a pretty good athlete. Besides, after wrestling a 14-foot alien queen, making a trick basketball shot doesn't seem that difficult." Fact number 15. Aliens got made because of a cocktail napkin, not a script, not a treatment, a napkin. While promoting The Terminator at the Cannes Film Festival, Cameron found himself seated next to 20th Century Fox executives at a restaurant. When they casually asked what he was working on next, Cameron hadn't just come unprepared. He had nothing. Thinking quickly, he grabbed a cocktail napkin and wrote a single word: Aliens. Then he added the S from the $sign, creating the iconic stylized title. The executives weren't just intrigued. They were sold on the spot, offering Cameron a development deal based solely on that napkin. What the studio didn't realize was that Cameron had no concrete plan for the sequel. He hadn't seen the original Alien in years. His napkin pitch was pure improvisation, a desperate move by a young director seizing an unexpected opportunity. The napkin itself became a legendary piece of Hollywood history. Fox executive Michael Levy had it framed, where it hung in his office until his retirement. As Cameron later admitted, "Some of us, the biggest deals in Hollywood history, have been made on less." Fact number 16. H.R. Giger, the visionary artist who created the original xenomorph, wasn't involved in Aliens. Not because he refused, because he was deliberately excluded. Cameron wanted to evolve the alien design, making the creatures more animalistic and militaristic to fit his combat-focused story. Rather than working with Giger to adapt the design, Fox executives made a calculated decision to proceed without consulting him. Giger didn't just disapprove. He was devastated. Upon seeing the film, he wrote Cameron a personal letter expressing his dismay at being excluded from the project, stating, "The alien is my child, and they have kidnapped and mistreated it." The artistic conflict went deeper than professional courtesy. Giger's original design emphasized sexual symbolism and biomechanical horror. Cameron's vision represented a fundamental shift toward action horror, replacing psychological dread with tactical combat. Years later, when Giger was invited back for Alien 3, he pointedly refused to acknowledge Cameron's design modifications, working exclusively from his original concepts. As Giger noted in his diary, art, like the creatures it creates, should evolve naturally, not by committee. Fact number 17. The infamous MedLab scene wasn't just terrifying for audiences. It put Weaver in the hospital. The sequence where Ripley and Newt are trapped with 2 facehuggers required Weaver to perform much of her own stunt work. The scene wasn't just physically demanding. It was dangerous. During filming, a piece of the laboratory set collapsed unexpectedly, striking Weaver in the head. Rather than stopping, she continued the take, completing the scene despite suffering what was later diagnosed as a mild concussion. The physical toll didn't end there. The specialized tape used to simulate the facehugger's grip on her face caused a severe allergic reaction, resulting in facial swelling that required medical treatment. Production halted for 2 days while Weaver recovered. What audiences see in the final film isn't just an actress portraying fear. It's someone pushing through genuine pain and injury. As the on-set medic noted in the production log, Weaver refused pain medication until after cameras stopped rolling, concerned about performance impact. Fact and Paus Bart 18. Lance Henriksen didn't just play Bishop, he lived as Bishop for months. To prepare for his role as the android, Henriksen adopted an extreme method approach that wasn't just dedicated. It was disturbing. 4 months before filming began, Henriksen started sleeping only 2 hours per night, creating the sunken-eyed appearance and slightly delayed responses characteristic of Bishop. He trained himself to never blink on camera by practicing with a mirror for hours daily. During pre-production, he refused to eat in front of the cast and crew, maintaining the illusion that he didn't require food. His commitment extended to physical modification. Henriksen had his wisdom teeth removed unnecessarily to create subtle changes in his facial structure. For scenes requiring Bishop to perform his famous knife trick, Henriksen practiced obsessively until he could genuinely execute the high-speed maneuver without a stunt double. The psychological toll was significant. By the end of production, Henriksen had developed insomnia that persisted for years. As he later admitted, "I didn't just play Bishop. For those months, I abandoned being human." Fact Tharmer 19. The film's Vietnam War parallels weren't subtle subtext. They were Cameron's explicit intention from the first draft. Cameron didn't just set out to make a sci-fi sequel, he crafted a pointed commentary on American military hubris. The colonial Marines weren't just space soldiers, they were direct analogs to Vietnam-era U.S. forces, technologically superior, overconfident, and ultimately outmatched by an enemy they underestimated. The parallels extended to specific characters. Hudson represented American bravado crumbling under pressure. Gorman embodied the disconnected officer class making decisions from safety. Apone represented the non-commissioned officers bearing the real burden of leadership. What audiences didn't recognize was how deliberately Cameron incorporated historical details. The Marines' dropship interior was modeled directly from Vietnam-era helicopter configurations. Their dialogue incorporated authentic military jargon from the conflict. Even their weapons malfunction, the pulse rifles overheating in the atmosphere processor, mirrored the infamous M16 reliability problems in Vietnam's humid conditions. As Cameron noted in a 1987 interview, science fiction allows us to process our most difficult historical traumas at a safe distance. Fact number 20. The iconic line, "Get away from her, you bitch," almost got cut, not by studio executives, but by Weaver herself. Throughout production, Weaver expressed concerns about the dialogue, feeling it was out of character for Ripley. She wasn't just hesitant. She actively lobbied to have it removed, suggesting alternatives like, "Leave her alone," and "It's over." Cameron insisted the line remain, arguing that it represented the culmination of Ripley's character arc, from survivor to warrior. The disagreement wasn't just creative. It became personal, with Weaver refusing to film the scene for 2 days. The standoff ended when Cameron showed Weaver the partially assembled power loader sequence without dialogue. Seeing the visual impact convinced her of the moment's power. She agreed to film the scene with the original line, but requested multiple takes with different readings. The version used in the final film was actually Weaver's least favorite delivery. Cameron selected it specifically for its raw emotional quality. As Weaver later acknowledged, "Jim was right. Sometimes the line you resist becomes the one everyone remembers." Bonus fact after principle. Photography wrapped, James Cameron did something unprecedented. Something that almost got the entire film scrapped. He secretly reshot nearly 20 minutes of footage without the studio's knowledge or approval. When Fox executives saw Cameron's initial rough cut, they demanded significant trims, particularly from the opening Earth sequences establishing Ripley's backstory. Their mandate wasn't a suggestion, it was an ultimatum. Cut 30 minutes or lose control of final edit. Cameron appeared to comply, delivering a shortened cut that satisfied the studio. What Fox didn't know was that he had already developed an elaborate contingency plan. Using his own money, approximately $150,000, Cameron privately reassembled key cast members and filmed critical scenes the studio had demanded cut. He used skeleton crews working under false production names on weekends at Pinewood Studios. These weren't just touch-ups. They were complete narrative sequences, including the pivotal revelation about Ripley's daughter and her 57-year absence. When the film tested exceptionally well, Cameron revealed his deception, presenting Fox with both versions and forcing them to compare audience reactions. The studio was furious but couldn't argue with the results. This guerrilla filmmaking approach established a precedent that continues today, the director's cut. Without Cameron's willingness to risk his career and personal finances, the practice of releasing extended versions of films might never have become industry standard. As he later reflected, "Sometimes to honor your vision, you have to break the rules. All of them." Aliens wasn't just a movie that changed science fiction, it was a production that rewrote the rules of filmmaking itself. From Cameron's battles with studios and crew to Weaver's physical sacrifices, what happened behind the camera proved as dramatic as the xenomorph attacks on screen. The film's enduring legacy isn't just its pulse-pounding action or groundbreaking effects. It's the testament to what becomes possible when filmmakers refuse to compromise their vision, even when the odds are stacked against them. Next time you watch Ripley face down the Alien Queen, remember the real heroes weren't just on screen. They were behind the cameras, fighting battles just as fierce to bring this landmark film to life. If you enjoyed these shocking revelations, hit subscribe and drop a comment, letting us know which movie's secrets you want us to explore next. Because in filmmaking, just like in space, no one can hear you scream, but eventually everyone learns the truth.